Whether you're working on a genealogy brick wall or just new to genealogy and climbing your family tree, you're going to encounter evidence that you have to evaluate. Now, don't be afraid. It really isn't that difficult to understand how to do. I'm going to show you some practical ways that you can evaluate the records that you have again and again and build your family tree and be confident in the accuracy of the information you compile. Now, in genealogy, you are going about gathering clues. And when you gather those clues together, you create this pile of information, so much so that this evidence you gathered, hopefully that if you saw your ancestor walking down the street, you'd be able to pick them out. So one of the things I want to do is to help you understand and feel confident evaluating the records that you find when you come across them. So we're going to do a lot of show and tell and some training along the way. So on this death certificate for Henry J. Geisler, this is a source. Now, what are sources? Well, in genealogy, a source can be anything that provides you information about your ancestor. They can be interviews, they can be audio clippings, they could be video interviews, they could be letters, diaries, family Bibles, they could be government documents like the one I'm showing you, they can be church documents, military records, passenger lists, and the list goes on. For an exhaustive list of the type of records you can search, be sure you check the link in the description for my brick wall busting guide, because the second freebie in that is a list of all the type of records you can find for your ancestor, or shall I say, might find. So let's look at this source. This source was a digital image from a collection of documents that were kept at a county court. So when you're looking at your sources, you're trying to ask a couple of things. First of all, what is it? Who provided it? And where is it kept? One little secret, you also want to save a link to any of your digital discoveries to a family tree. That way, you always can get back to your source when you need it again. Now, this record is not part of an extensive series of documents, but there are cases where there are marriage returns. And if there's a marriage return, there is a marriage license and certificate at some point. So you want to know, is my source part of a greater collection of documents, or is it just kind of a one-off like this document? Now, as we start to look at this document, there is a lot of information on it. I have a death place of Columbus, Ohio. I have some numbers. He died in the University Hospital. I have his residence at the time of his death, his gender, his race, his marital status, who his wife was. I really, really like modern records. They give you a lot of information. When we're looking at information, we want to know, why was this record created? Anytime you have a source, why was it created? Well, this was to certify that somebody died, and it also provide a lot of health statistics to the Vital Statistics Department of Ohio. So they really did want to know the cause of death. As a genealogist, we really like these records because when they created, they also wanted to give identifying details so that if you have a same name individual, you know which one died. The next thing you want to consider when you're looking at your source is who provided the information. Now, I know this family pretty well. And when I see W.J. Geisler from 1158 Medill Street, I know that this is Henry's son. So the next thing I have to ask myself are two things. Would he have witnessed any of this information? And would he have a reason to lie about it? Now, I don't necessarily think he had any reason to lie about the identity of his father's wife, the birthday so far as he knew it to be, the residence of Henry at the time of his death. Now, William did not provide the cause of death. That was a doctor. And the doctor acting in the office of physician really wouldn't have a reason to lie, but sometimes, depending on how long it took for him to sign off on the case, he might have fudged some information. So be careful. Was drunk at the time. It was an auto accident, and basically it was a trolley car that hit him. And so he had fractures, and a heart failure. So that information is fairly reliable from the person who signed off on it, the university hospital physician. But unfortunately, we now have information that is missing. On death certificates, you would like to know the identity of the parents of the deceased. But William didn't happen to know the identity of his grandfather or his grandmother. Now, I'm surprised he didn't know the identity of his grandmother, because his brother George, he did know who the grandmother was, because he had memories of being on her farm in Georgeville, Ohio. Now, I can understand him William not understanding the identity of Henry's father, because Henry's father died when Henry was 4 and his mother remarried. So for some reason, the parents' information was not provided on that record, and that's kind of surprising. But every time you're looking at a source, you're trying to ask yourself these questions. Why wouldn't William have included this information? Why didn't he know? Shouldn't he have known? Why didn't he let George sign off of it? Because George knew who his grandmother was, because he told his children and grandchildren about his grandma. Whenever you have a source, make sure you go through this step of looking at all of the information that you have. What does this record directly address? What is the direct evidence on this record, and what is indirect evidence, and what is negative evidence? This record directly states that the wife of Henry is Magdalena Geisler. We know that they were married according to this record. We also know directly that at the time of his death that Magdalena died, because it said he was a widow. Therefore, she would be deceased. On this document, if we did not have a birth date and we only had the age, months, and days, then we have what could be indirect evidence. We could use a birth calculator that you can find a link to in the show notes, and you can calculate based on the date of his death, how many years old he was in months, days, and years, and then calculate a birth date, and then we would call that indirect evidence. We have indirect evidence of the date of his birth based on the age, month, and date. Now, again, the negative evidence, the evidence that should be on this document, but for some reason it was left off, are the identities and the birthplace of Henry's parents. Now, negative evidence also confuses me because sometimes I think it disproves information, and don't let that be your mistake. Negative evidence is evidence that should have been on a document that you would expect to be on the document, but it wasn't there. So I hope this helps you when you're evaluating records in the future. Just remember, you want to know what kind of source you're looking at, what type of information is on it, and how reliable do you think the information can be. You follow those 3 things and you can keep yourself out of a lot of hot water. If you want to learn more about evaluating evidence, then I have a lot of references in the show notes, and you'll find a link to that in the description of this video. If you are ready to continue your beginning genealogy journey, make sure you check this playlist up here. And if you're ready for something new, check out our latest video here. And